Hello everyone, I am Amit Bhuptani, Assistant Professor in Mechanical Engineering Department at Dr. Subhash Technical Campus, Junagadh. I welcome you all on today's topic of discussion related with the subject Industrial Engineering. In today's presentation, we will study about the topic plant location. So before we begin our presentation on our today's topic, let us have an overview of today's presentation. The first topic that we will discuss is what is plant location. The second topic will be need for plant location. The third topic that we will discuss, that is selection criteria for the plant location, and the fourth topic will be rate of return. So let us start our presentation with our discussion on what is plant location. As we all know, plant location. So to establish any plant or any factory, one requires a place or a site for establishing their factory. So it refers to the choice of region and selection of particular site for setting up a business or factory. Or it can be defined as a place where man, machines, material, equipments which are brought together for production of goods. So plant location is simply a place where one can manufacture their products with the help of resources like man, machine, material and equipments. So this is all about plant location. Second topic, need for plant location. Why? What is the need for plant location? So the first point is when a new plant is to be established. So in order to establish a plant, one must select a place or site for the establishment of their plant. The second point is the existing factory is not in a position to obtain the renewal of lease. So after the completion of the contract, for example, they have done the understanding on the lease for 5 years. So after the completion of 5 years of lease, that particular site owner is not ready to renew that contract. So at that time there may be a need for change in position of the existing factory. The third point, the old plant undergoes expansion, decentralization and diversification to meet increased demands for its products. So according to the third point, if one wants to expand their existing product and the space available is not enough, at that time also there will be a requirement of plant location. Then decentralization and diversification to meet increased demand for its products. Diversification means they are producing, for example, 3 products. Now if they want to increase the range of their variety or the range of products they are manufacturing, if they are producing 3 products, now they are supposed to produce 5 products. So for producing those additional 2 products, they will require some new site or new place, because that existing is not able to produce in that existing plant. So in order to increase the range also of the products, one must go for plant location. Or if the demand of the product is increasing, so in order to meet the demands of their customers, at that time also there will be need for plant location. Then the fourth point, the tendency of shifting the market, depletion of raw materials, changes in transport facilities, new processes requires at different locations are observed in the factory. So the market scenario is changing. As we know that market is always changing, so one must, in order to remain competitive with the market, they must be able to maintain all the standards, all the trends that are going on the market. But if the market is shifting from one place to another, then based on the demand they will also have to change their position. Depletion of raw materials means raw materials are not available where your plant is located. Initially it was available, but now it is difficult. At that time also plant location, need for plant location arises. Then changes in transport facilities. And last, that we had already discussed, for the branches, for the opening of new branches. Okay, for example, Lloyd company manufactures an air conditioning. Now if they want to produce some another product like air coolers or something else, at that time they will have to change over their location. Next point of discussion is selection criteria for plant location. What are the criteria that one must keep in mind while selecting a location for plant? So the first point that one must keep in mind is availability and nearness to the sources of raw materials. Availability of raw materials. So this is the first point which one must keep in mind. For producing any product, they will require raw materials. So that raw materials availability, that should be nearer, that should be enough availability so that raw material transportation cost can be reduced and it can be available in enough quantity. Second one is climatic conditions. Climatic conditions depends on some products. Some particular products are only manufactured in that particular climatic conditions. So that also has to be considered while selecting a plant location. Third point is transportation cost. They must also consider the transportation cost. That consists of raw material cost as well as finished products. When the products are finished, then the transportation cost for delivering the products to the customers, that cost should be minimum and that should be. Then next is nearness to the market. Nearness to the market means they must be nearer to the market, because to know the criteria, to know the current situation in the markets, to know the trends in the market, they must be nearer to the market. Otherwise what happens, if they are away from the market, they don't know what is the trend in the market, they can easily lose their customers. If they are away from others, they can also lose their customers. So this is also a point which they must keep in mind. Next, availability of manpower means availability of skilled and non-skilled laborers. That is also to be kept in mind, because ultimately you will require laborers for production of goods and services. If they are not available in enough numbers, then your goals, your target will not be achieved. So those laborers also should be available at cheaper rate. Next criteria is availability of fuel and power. Availability of fuel and power, that again depends. Power means electricity. The electricity should be continuously available at cheaper rate, at minimum rate. And fuel, that again depends on the type of industry. For example, if you consider steel industries, so they will be mostly established around the place where coal, which is the fuel that is used, that is in adequate amount available. So this is also a point which one must keep in mind. Next, availability of water, that again depends on the type of industries. If you consider chemical industries, then in chemical industries there will be a huge amount of water that will be required for their processes. So that is also a point which one must keep in mind. Water is also used for drinking, for sanitary purposes. So all those facilities should be available where the site is selected. One more criteria is existence of hospitals, schools, banks should be located nearby. So this all facilities like hospital facilities, if there is any accident that occurred, then at that time if one requires hospital facilities, then that should be also available. Schooling facilities for their children's, banking facilities for doing transactions, ATMs, etc. All those things should be considered while selecting a site. Next criteria is community attitude. This is the most important criteria, because in the place where they are establishing their plant, the community plays a very big role. The local public, if they are willing to get the job or to get the work, then they will definitely support. So this again plays a very important role of the local public at where you are establishing your plant. Then next is presence of related industries. So as we know that everything cannot be produced in-house. Sometimes some things are also being bought from the outside or from some other industries. So that should be nearby to them, so that whenever there is a problem in any parts or any machineries, you can easily get those damaged parts from them. Next, housing facilities. There must be housing facilities for their workers so that they can give accommodation to them. And last, safety and security should be given prime importance. Then special grants, regional tax and import-export barriers. And there are certain places where government encourages the industrialists to establish their plant, where they can get certain benefits of taxes. For example, special economic zones, where if they establish their factory in that particular region decided by government, they will get certain amount of exemptions in taxes. But again, there must be some criteria which must be fulfilled by that particular industry. Then facilities of expansion. If in future you want to expand your plant for increasing production or producing some variety of products, so that point also must be considered. Okay, so now the last point of discussion is rate of return. So what is rate of return? We will understand that by taking one example. So let us go through the example. From the following data, select the most advantageous location for setting a plant for making transistor radios. So from this example we will understand what is rate of return. You have to select a site for making transistor radios. So in this example we are given 3 sites, X, Y and Z, and all the particulars are given in the table. So first of all, let us go through the data. In serial number 1, the particulars first is total initial investment. So what is the investment that all the sites initially they are doing? So for site X it is 2 lakhs, site Y it is 2 lakhs, and for site Z it is 2 lakhs. Now for the second serial number, it is given total expected sales for the period. So it is 2,50,000, 3 lakh and 2,50,000 for site Z. Third one is distribution expenses. For site X it is 40,000, for site Y it is 40,000, and for site Z it is 75,000. For the fourth serial number, that is raw material expenses, that is 70,000 for site X, 80,000 for site Y, and 90,000 for site Z. Fifth item is power and water supply expenses. So that is 40,000 for site X, 30,000 for site Y, and 20,000 for site Z. 6 is wages and salaries. So in wages and salaries, for site X it is 20,000, for site Y it is 25,000, and for site Z it is 20,000. Seventh is other expenses. Other expenses means it can be in the form of insurance, it can be in the form of stationery charges, quotation charges, telephone bills, etc. So other expenses, for site X it is 25,000, for site Y it is 40,000, site Z it is 30,000. And at last, community attitudes. For site X, the attitude of community is indifferent, means people are having different opinions whether they want this plant to be established in their region or not. For site Y, they are wanting the business in that particular area or particular zone, and for site Z again it is indifferent. So if all the things are given, rate of return means which, considering all this data, considering all this costs, considering all these investments, which site gives you maximum rate of return. So based on that we will select which site gives you maximum rate of return. That site will be selected for setting a plant for making transistor radios. So we will calculate rate of return for each site X, Y and Z. So solution is again given over here. First of all, we will calculate total expenses of site X, Y and Z. So for calculating total expenses, we will do the addition of the serial number 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Total expenses means for producing the finished product, what are the expenses they had spent. Distribution expenses means from sending the finished product from your plant to some other plant, that is for all the sites it is given different. For X it is this much, for Y it is this much, for Z it is this much. Then raw material expenses is 70,000, 80,000 and 90,000. Power and water supply, that again, so that adding of 3, 4, 5th, 6th and 7th item gives you total expenses. So for site X we have calculated, that is 1,95,000. For site Y it is 2,15,000, and for site Z it is 2,35,000. Now rate of return is calculated using the formula. It is obtained in the form of percentage. So it is total sales minus total expenses divided by total investment into 100. So that will give you the rate of return for each site. So based on the above calculation, we will calculate the rate of return for site X. So total sales for site X, as it is given in the table, total sales it is 2,50,000, and total initial investment of site X is 1 lakh. Total sales for site X is 2,50,000, and total expenses based on the addition of the item 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, it is 1,95,000. We have calculated over here, it is 1,95,000 divided by total initial investment. So total initial investment of all the three sites were 2 lakhs. So from the calculation we are getting rate of return for site X, that is 27.5%. Similarly, the rate of return for site Y, based on the calculation that we are getting 42.5%, and rate of return for site Z we are getting that is 7.5%. So from this calculation we can conclude that site Y will be the most advantageous because it gives you the highest amount of rate of return considering all the expenses, considering total sales. It gives you maximum rate of return, so that is 42.5%, and also the community over there wants the business. So for producing or for making radio transistor radios, we will select Y site with 42.5% rate of return. Okay, I hope you understood it, what is rate of return and how the site is selected. Thank you.